Welcome everyone to part 2 of I tried to qualify for the biggest European StarCraft 2 tournament. Today is going to be our last chance to make it, and even though last time we played with mostly Terran, or actually all Terran with some challenges, today I'm going to be playing every single race. That's right, I'm going to be trying to do it with Zerg, Protoss, and Terran. Let's begin. Our first opponent is going to be Power, a 5.7k Protoss player, and I'm going to start playing Zerg. Now, as you notice, this is going to be a voiceover because on the day itself, I was having a little bit too much of a headache to play and do commentary at the same time. But I still really wanted to show you guys the continuation of this run. So here we go. Mark, the Zerg player against Power. It was actually pretty funny because I talked to him at the start and he asked me if I was going to play Terran, right? And then before I could answer, he said, I'm really scared of your Protoss. But I was actually planning on playing Zerg here. So here we go. Now, this isn't necessarily I'm only going to play off-race in this tournament. What I wanted to do just play a little bit of Zerg, a little bit of Protoss, a little bit of Terran, kind of just see what the vibe was. But playing it's a high-level Protoss, 5.7k is probably around top 75 Grandmaster on Europe, I want to say. In qualifier number 1, Power made it to the qualifying match, so definitely a very strong opponent. Did better than I did, in fact, with my Terran, albeit I was playing a little bit funny. So I had a couple ideas here. In the first game, I'm going to go for a 17-17 and go for my standard link drop, which I think I'm probably the only person in the world that can call that a standard build. But what I really wanted to do is kind of just create a lot of chaos, mess with his head, and then try to react and do the follow-ups that I want to do. So let's say he goes for a fast robo. Maybe we can go for mutas. Let's say I think he's playing greedy. Maybe I can go for even more link drops. Stuff like that, right? Let's say if he's going for Stargate, maybe we'll go for Hydralisk, etc., etc. There's a ton of options. And one advantage that I do think I had here is that I'm pretty sure my opponent was very nervous. Like, people always get nervous when they play against someone's off race because I guess it would feel a little bit embarrassing to lose to it. Like, I mean, I don't think this would be embarrassing at all. My Zerg has reached a pretty decent MMR. But still, people always find it a little bit embarrassing. It's the most important tournament of the year. And one thing that sucks for the StarCraft 2 scene, but is a truth, is that these tournaments are not very frequent anymore. I think right now there are 2 seasons a year. So this is basically a once, or twice a year qualifier. So if he loses this one, that might be the end for the season for him. You're going to have to wait until next year, until maybe like even April or something to play another qualifier this big. So here's scouted that my opponent is going to go for 2 gates. He's also making a Zealot, which I wonder if he misread this as me doing a 12 pool initially. I didn't really think about it at the time, but maybe he misread this as me going for a 12 pool. Because against that, the counter is usually to go for a second gateway. I do have to say that this scared me a little bit. Because, I mean, first of all, it's an unconventional response. So even though I've done a lot of link drops, and I doubt my opponent has played against a lot of link drops, I don't quite know what I want to do against this response with the double gateway. So that's going to make it a little more difficult. You also could send a couple of depths across, to my, third base / natural, however you want to call that. See, I have no drones. I might not have link speed ready to deal with those adepts. So definitely a lot of dangers possible here. His probe also scouted my lair, but to be honest, I don't think it really matters. Now, notice the version I went for, guys. I made 2 extra really fast overlords that are now going to go to the other third base, which is going to set me up to go for that beautiful quadruple link drop that I'm really excited for. Now, I wanted to saturate my third base instantly. I still don't know whether to call that my third base or my natural, but I saw the adept shading. Now here, he mismicroed the adept a little bit, so the 2 links are going to do better than I would normally expect, so that's really nice. I think he might be able to escape or is barely going to die. I'm not sure, actually. Let's see. Oh, I still couldn't see. I don't even know. Did it die? I hope it died. Now, this scared me a little bit here, guys, because he has a pylon on the edge of his base, which means he is probably aware of this builder. Now, it's always a little bit of a tricky thing, right? Like, do people watch my videos? Do they not? Have I played against him before? Have I not? So maybe, he's just very aware of this build, because a pylon there is normally uncommon. I'm still going to go for a double link drop in the main. Let's see what he has. I mean, so far I just see a pylon, which I mean, I guess it means he's just going to react really fast, and there we go. An adept and a stalker. I do want to... Okay, never mind. I was going to drop on top of those, but then I saw the Oracle. Oracle is super, super, super good against Zerglings, by the way. So that's, really want to be careful for dropping on top of that. And it also means he could have a Void Ray or a Phoenix on the way soon. Now, Phoenix I wouldn't be too scared of because that's going to kill stuff quite slow. Now, this is what he's never going to expect, guys. This is a follow-up that I'm very sure only I have done, or maybe some of you guys who have copied me. The secondary double link drop into the natural. Now, this does mean I have a very low worker count. Now, let's see if I can get a surround on these adepts. Barely not. Like, if they're in range of the battery, I can't really do that much. So, that is quite unfortunate for me. But we are going to be able to kill a bunch of probes. And to be honest, if you look at it, there's not really that many probes. Now, his units are still in the corner waiting for my overlord, but then I can start making moves like this, where I sent the other group of links into the natural, and now this is very chaotic, you could say. Now, there's a Void Ray here, and that is really unfortunate, because that Void Ray is going to spell the end of this, and that's why I'm going to go for the Hydralisk Den here. Now, I do still have a couple of Zerglings that can kill the pros in the natural. My supply is incredibly low, and you could think I'm not in that great of a spot, which could be true, but I have a lot of links, and my opponent doesn't have that many probes either. My opponent's probably up by, I want to say, 8 workers or so. And we might be able to negate that with this next link drop. I'm also going to morph this one into a dropper lord. Now, this one he's going to see. Or not. I mean, I guess he would have been attacking the overlord if he did see it. So there we go. The Hydralisk Den is finished. I'm going to go for the range upgrade. Well, actually, I canceled it to make speed, which makes way more sense. So well done to the past me. Now, I still have absolutely no economy. But then at the same time, my opponent doesn't really have anything to do on my side of the map. So I could make drones freely if I want. And I do still have this double link drop, which could come in as a surprise. Let's see. This one is going to distract him into the main base. I mean, ideally, we also get a lot of work done with this one, right? But more realistically, it's going to be about the distraction. Now, I saw a bunch of units entering my natural. So this is kind of like a semi-base rate. I believe that's 2 oracles. Was that 2 oracles or was one? I think it was 2 oracles and 6 adepts into my main. Hydras, by the way, are not good against adepts. But if I can have enough to just barely survive, that's going to be really nice. So check this out. I'm going to get a really nice drone surround here. The drone surround is going to prevent him from attacking my Hydras. And that means the Hydras are going to be able to use that real glass cannon DPS that they're known for. And that was a fantastic trade. Our opponent is very low on workers. He's going to fly this Orca over here. And now, sadly, we are going to find out the power of adepts against Hydras. Like, Hydras are light units, guys. So they take so much freaking damage. He's probably going to... Yeah, exactly. I thought he was going to cancel that shade to kill those Hydras, but at the same time, I mean, if you look at our supply, you think we're absolutely dead, right? But we also killed a lot of his workers. I'm not quite sure how many he managed to save. I do think he managed to save a decent amount because he does have 8 workers on the natural still. But I'm not quite sure, guys. We could actually be in a decent position here. I have the Hydra upgrade, and the Hydra, it sounds weird, but the Hydra is the best tech here in the game, right? Like, he has a Stargate, which is a good tech. I don't quite remember if he had glaives on those adepts, so I'm not sure if he has a Twilight count, so I want to guess that he didn't. I feel like if he had glaives, he would have actually killed all of my stuff. Could be wrong, but that's what I feel like. So maybe the Hydra is still going to be the best tech in the game. I'm going to remake drones, rather. I need to be very, very careful with these Hydras, though, because if some adepts come back, like if 4 adepts come back, he will be able to kill all those Hydras, and that's going to be incredibly painful. And here I'm going to make an overseer. That's just going to help me scout for the rest of the game. I think my units are going to finish at the perfect timer. Yeah, exactly. There you go. And the adepts weren't perfectly in the mineral line, so those are going to fall. He kills my queen, but he doesn't kill that many drones, so that's really great. And now I have another drop over here. I'm going to fall back. And you could think I could go for the main base, but the thing is he has the Void Ray. And now, guys, I did a move. I'm not sure if you guys noticed there. I did a move that I have never done before. I made a baling nest. And I was so excited when I thought of this. I just felt incredibly creative. Because what happens here is I send in a Zergling drop. My opponent just sends the adepts under the Overlord. And I can't do anything. But if there's Balings inside, they will just detonate when I drop them. And to be honest, if I'm looking at the supply now and the amount of pros my opponent has, I'm definitely convinced that we were still a little bit behind. But with the Baling move, we're gonna see, guys. We'll never know. So I'm gonna keep... I wasn't sure if I should morph like 4 Balings or 8 or go with 2 Overlords or 1. Like, I really wasn't quite sure. There we go. These links are mostly here just to distract the Void Ray. Like, I still know exactly. There's a Void Ray somewhere that's going to beam my Overlords down. And those are pretty much there to just distract them. Now, I am missing queens, which means my drone production is not going to be that great. Though, realistically, I don't even have the money for queen production right now, or any production for that matter. I'm going to send the Overseer in the main. Hope I don't... Yeah, exactly. Hope I don't fly into the Void Ray. That's always going to be a little bit painful. Let's see if I can get the Overseer by. I think barely... No, barely not. Man, Voiders do a lot of damage to Overseers. I feel like for some reason they kind of give the vibe of a light unit, so you would think the Void Ray doesn't do that much damage, but it is just an armored unit and it just dies instantly, basically. Now this is pretty much a distraction, kind of trying to force his hand, trying to get the units over here, and then I'm gonna move my Bailing Drop over to the other side to pass the Void Ray. And now my mineral line, it's so funny how bad my economy has been. This is almost 10 minutes, by the way, guys, and I'm at 50 on supply. You can easily be maxed at this point in time. So here we go. He might not run the probes instantly because he thinks it's just Zerglings inside. And there we go. Massive hits with the Bailing Drops. That was absolutely beautiful. There was an Oracle on my main base that it didn't really do anything. And now he's going to have to run away with these probes because there are still Bailings inside. Right now, he's not really biting anything. He has 3 probes there on that natural. I'm just going to do my best and try to see. Sucks for me that one Bailing got it. I didn't even see that stasis at all, by the way. Like, my Bailing just got trapped in the stasis. Can I kill a couple more probes? I think I got 1 or 2 more, which is really nice. And now, suddenly we're at an economic advantage again. I mean, I have a decent amount of Hydras. What the crazy part here is, guys, normally Oracles in the depths would be fantastic against Hydras, right? But I have a Bailing Nest. So what I can do is I can play the lowest economy Hydra Bailing game of all time. Like, if he wants to shade 10 adepts and I have 4 Bailings, he's probably gonna cry. So this is a really cool attack. I can't believe how low the supply is. This is one of the most chaotic games I've ever played. So I'm gonna go across with this Hydra Bailing army. I have enough gas to morph every unit I have into Bailings. I don't think getting Bailing speed is gonna be worth it because, well, yeah, I mean, it's quite expensive, and I might as well make 6 Bailings instead, right? Now, the reason why I didn't go across the map right away is just because I thought he might be attacking me on the right side. Like, usually if players lose a bunch of economy, excuse me, a bunch of economy like he did, they are tempted to counterattack because their economy is simply worse than yours, right? So they want to go for it. So here we go, the Hydra. Here we're going to see the DPS of the Hydra. And now he can never leave this wall. So the entire wall is dead. That's plan number 1. Notice how I'm hiding the Bailings in the back. I really wanted him to shade on top here. Let's see. Okay, so 1 gateway goes down. He might be very tempted to go for it now. I want to kill the battery to make sure he cannot overcharge that. Let's see. And now the Bailings are coming in. He's confident in the adepts, but they're all clumped and there's only 1 force. So look at the Bailings. They're going to do so much damage to those adepts. I think 6 adepts went down there. And now he doesn't have the magic number of adepts anymore to shut me down. Now these Bailings do have to get across very fast. This is a little bit of a scary move by me, especially because he has glaives. But I'm just going to make sure that I kite as well as possible. If I waited for Bailings here, I think it would have been a slightly better move. But still, I mean, I killed basically all of his probes there, which is going to be all of his economy. Instead of making Bailings, I'm going to just on the fly decide to run these into the main, hide a couple there. Now, his economy is still pretty decent. Yeah, at this point, I was really wishing that I did wait for a couple extra Bailings because this is going to be, you know, that might be an extra painful loss. Now, I don't want him to see those Bailings morphing. That is the annoying part, but not quite sure if there's much I can do about it. So now I'm going to get Bailing speed and an extra base. 3 Bailings are walking in. Oh, I think because of the probes, he barely saw them in time. Can I kill a couple? Looks like I'm going to get a couple probes, about 3 probes going down there. Keep in mind, I did kill most of his mineral line before. I do see there's 3 drones following my other drone in my natural. 4 drones, actually. It's annoying me a little bit. Come on. Aha, there we go. Fixed. Communication with my past, guys. That's beautiful. Now, I would wonder if... Oh, there's a state. I was wondering where that turtle was building. I'm really curious if one of you could predict what the state of the game is now. 12.5 minutes. I have 83 supply. That should be our world record for lowest supply. Probably some bronze players feeling attacked in the comments right now. I'm sorry, guys. Didn't mean to be that harsh. But yeah, it is very, very, very low supply. This should definitely be a maxed supply game easily at this point. Maxed against maxed. Or maybe the Protoss not quite maxed, depending on the army is going for. But my opponent still doesn't have a 3rd base. I also don't, so that is, you know, one thing to keep in mind. I do have good scouting, and I do think I did a little damage. I also think, even though my army is not super sophisticated, Hydra Bailing is going to be better than Stargate unit plus Adept, right? As long as I have enough Bailings and I get to use them on the Adepts. Man, the Void Rays, look at the HP on that Overseer, just a little bit. It went down from 200 to 63. That is incredible. I'm going to go across with a couple of Hydras here. I was mostly expecting him to shade an army into my base at any point. Now, he's attacking me, which is really, really, really good for me. There we go. He's going to siege a prism. It's going to... I have to unsiege it. Those go away, but the Bailings are doing so much damage, and that's exactly what I mean, guys. Adepts are so good against Hydras, but as you can see when he pulled his probes earlier, but against the Bailings, they are just not going to be able to cut it. He felt forced to attack because his economy was so bad, and he saw that I was making a 3rd base, most likely. Or he saw the drone that he stasis. He fully walled his... This is so funny. He fully walled his natural, so I couldn't counterattack. But that means that now I can just kill all these buildings for free because I have range units. You can tell he's trying to defend the wall, but he can't. These poor Archons are locked inside. Either he elevated them or it was done by a recall. The Void Ray is already dead. And now I'm just waiting with the Banelings. At some point, I'm going to find the opportunity. And there we go. Now I'm just going to be rolling into the natural mineral line here. There we go. He's not going to be able to stop these as well. The cannon is going to fall. He does get a couple Hydras in the stasis there. But to be honest, that is mostly going to form a wall, I think. You can tell the second Archon is having a really big amount of trouble trying to get around. Now, what he's doing here is the right choice. He's trying to win this fight before my Hydras get out of the stasis, but with some good micro, we're going to be able to win against the Archons. He already used the battery overcharge, and that looks like it's going to be game. Mark with Zerg takes game number 1 against a 5.7k Protoss player. Game number 2 is once again going to be a Zerg game. Now, initially, my strategy was to play Zerg, and if it wouldn't go well, I would play Terran or maybe play Protoss, depending on the map and stuff. But here, I enjoyed that first game so much that I decided to play Zerg again. And I'm not going to spoil the result, but I'm going to tell you guys that it's going to be probably even crazier than the last game, okay? I did a strategy here that was... I probably thought it was too crazy for my own good, but we did it anyways. I definitely don't want to miss it. So I'm going to go for the 17-17 again. But you guys know me. I really like to play mind games and to mess with my opponent a little bit. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do something, well, yeah, not completely different because I'm still going to do link drops to some extent, but I'm going to add another element here. Now, I do think this map looks pretty good for my strategy. I noticed that the natural in this map, for example, it has a lot of space. Yeah, where you can drop Zerglings, for example. Now, there's a lot of follow-ups you can do. I feel like this game, it was so much different than what my Zerg gameplay normally is, and just for that I was quite excited because, you know, I really want to evolve my Zerg gameplay, and if I can make that look a little better, a little different at least every time, that's really nice. So here I noticed in game 1 that he scouted it around the time I wanted to put down my hatchery, and he was able to block it. This game I did not want to get my hatchery blocked on a natural, so I hit my drone in a little corner on the right side, and then when I saw his probe come with an overlord and knew it was going to pass, I sent it down and I took my natural safely. Which is a very comfortable way to do it, to be honest. One of the worst things about playing Zerg is that you have to play against Protoss and get your natural blocked, and then you have to play with your base that's in Tokyo, or your main base is in, I don't know, Amsterdam, and it's quite uncomfortable to play, to say the least. There's a lot of ground to cover there. Probably even more in game than in comparison in real life, to be honest. Just kidding. Now, am I going to go? There we go. We're going to make Zergling speed first. And then, I mean, you guys already know what's coming, kind of. Like, you don't really, but you know kind of what's coming. We're going to do some version of my link drop. Now, this is a really smart way to play in tournaments. You can play like this in ladder, too, if you play against someone more consistently, right? But in tournaments, I think it's really smart to just do builds that look the same. Right? It's always going to be really difficult for the opponent to find the exact changes. Like, for example, it sounds really silly, but even going for... Because the last game, I pretty much went for 6 Overlord link drops, right? Like, I went for 4 initially, and then I had enough Zerglings and Overlords for like 2 or 3 more drops, so maybe even 6 or 7. Let's say I would go for 3 Overlords, right? Full of link drops. That's already a way different level of commitment. Like, I think there's 24 Zerglings, so 12 more drones difference. Like, that's, you know, that's a lot. Like, it's a big difference, and it's really hard to check for those little details sometimes. Now, look at my Overlord placement, guys. Notice how they're not together to go for a nice double link drop. Also, notice how I haven't rallied any other Overlords across the map. And there you can see if you were paying attention that there was a Bailing nest going down, guys. Oh my goodness, I was so excited for this strategy. I think this is another one of those builds that I literally thought of in my sleep, by the way. Like, I was just like, what if I just go for a couple Bailings? They'll never see it coming. Now, this strategy was very confusing for me to play because it was like so different than what I did in my other link drops that I just wasn't quite sure how many links to send where, and where do I make Bailings or where do I make this. Like, I couldn't quite tell, to be honest. Like, it was really not easy. I'm going to make a second gas there already. That's a very fast second gas, but you can tell that I need it. Now, I'm sure you guys are going to like this strategy. Okay, so we have 2 link drops, right? We have 1 link drop in the main and 1 into the natural. I already think this is a pretty decent strat, though it does require a lot of multitasking and probably some outplays at some point, so you have to be very careful. Here we go. There's 2 Adepts and an Oracle. And now he's not going to expect the link drop in the natural. So maybe we'll be able to kill a couple drones. But here we go with the big play, guys. If you look at my gas count, it went down by 100, and you might already know what is up. But exactly now you can see it. There are, I think it's 4 Banelings morphing there, guys. I think he's never going to see this coming. Now, the sad part is that I wasn't able to afford Overlord speed with this, so this is going to have to be done by a slow Overlord, which is, it's going to look pretty funny, to be honest. Now, I still have the Overlord in the main. I imagine the Void Ray is going to be on the way momentarily, and there is the Hydra then follow-up, mostly because we are once again play against a Stargate. And this is what I'm talking about. They're gonna pull the probe to deal with the links. And there we go. Really big bailing. It's right from the get-go. That's massive. We're gonna kill another 3 drones with that one. And then there's a little trick you can do. I'm gonna morph that Overlord into an Overseer. It's gonna regen its health, and it's probably gonna be able to get away. Now, that Overlord in the main is gonna die to the Void Ray. Nothing really to be done about that. But this one is probably gonna survive. Like, the Void Ray is pretty fast, so I'm not 100% sure. Now, I do need to be really careful. Now, I think without the what's it called? I think without the Overlord speed, it is gonna die, unfortunately. So it ended up being, you know, as genius of a tactic as I had initially proclaimed. But we did kill his entire mineral line with the 4 Bailing drop, and in the meantime, I didn't actually make that many Zerglings. Like, if you look at my bases, guys, I am fully saturated already, so we're actually gonna be ahead of the economy after that opening, which is absolutely fantastic. Now, I think at some point, it's an upgrade I really want to have in every single game, to be honest. Overlord speed, like, it's just so useful if you want to scout, or if it doesn't even matter if you want to drop or not. Like, if you want to scout, it's already very useful. Let's see if we can get any intel on the main. Now he's going to scout the Hydra's den. I was trying to prevent it with my queen movement there, but he did end up scouting it in the end. Now, I want a little bit more information. That's why I keep checking with the Zergling. Information is super, super important with Zerg. I think Zerg, it is the best race at scouting, but at the same time, you have to do a lot of scouting, because if you don't, you can easily get caught off guard by something silly, and then you're just going to be in trouble. Now, I'm going to go for the Spire. I think, at least I remembered that I scouted a Robo, or maybe I thought it was a Robo or something like that. I remember having a very distinct reason to go for the Hydras here. I don't know where the Robo is. Okay, well, there's an Immortal, so I guess there's a Robo in the main or something that I scouted. So my strategy here, I'm not sure if it's really stupid or absolutely brilliant, but I liked it anyway. So what I decided to do was, the reason why you don't really want to go mass Hydras against Robo. Look, he thought it was going to out... That's actually funny. The Hydra DPS is so sick. He thought the battery overcharge was going to out DPS, and that's it. But you don't really want to go mass Hydra against Robo, because Colossus are freaking insane against Hydras, like marine level insane, you know? Like, if there's a Colossus against a couple of Hydras, you already kind of want to stop making Hydras. So what I want to do here, I could have killed the Cybernetic score. I didn't think the Colossus was going to finish that fast. So what I did is I just made a couple Hydras, and then I'm going to go for the Spire. Keep in mind, my opponent is still on 2 base. I'm making spine crawlers already because I'm, you know, what do you call it? Preparing. Sorry, I was going to say pretending. I'm preparing for a Mutalisk base trade situation. Now, what's really funny is that even though my build has been a little different from usual, I am pretty experienced in this situation, because we had an absolute miracle game. I'm not quite sure if you remember, where I beat a Protoss that had 50 supply more than me with a Mutalisk Hydra base trade. So notice how I'm spreading. Oh, that's pretty lucky, not gonna lie, but I guess it's a benefit of having good map control. But I'm spreading my Hydra, so if he ever moves out, I will simply be able to just run into his base and kind of own him and defend with spine crawlers, right? So if I have Hydras on 2 sides, first of all, I'll see him move out more. Second of all, if there is one angle that I can't use to run by, maybe I can run by with the other angle. So this is all going to be very nice. And I mean, I'm getting the 3rd base up already. Like, this is looking pretty good. You can tell my opponent is still on 2 bases. He might have an observer, because he does keep pulling back his army just in time. Maybe I could have, like, stuck into the natural there and killed a bunch of probes. Now, it is a very weird game, because my economy is better. His army is clearly better. I'm gonna make Mutals. Notice how I'm making more and more spines. I really think he was, you know, he's gonna go for an attack at some point here. So I'm making more spines, even in the main, because you never know when they blink into your main plus walk the Colossi there, right? Like, Colossi can walk up cliffs, so you always need to keep that in mind. It does look really silly, by the way, to just make this many static defenses randomly. Oh, I really wish I could have gotten a cancel on that, but I didn't get to. Excuse me. Gonna lose a couple Hydras for that, but honestly, not the biggest deal. Like, as long as I keep tabs on him, like, I'm on 6 gas already. I'm on 6 gas. My 3rd is way ahead. Maybe he... Okay, so I thought this was going to be 100% a surprise, but judging by this, he had an idea that I was going to go for Mutalis, you could say, because there's... I think there was 3 cannons plus a battery there, and he was warping in Stalker, so he definitely realized I was going to go for Mutas. Now, with all those cannons, I thought he was going to be more defensive, so I'm going to put my Spine Crawlers all the way to the front. Now, it is a pretty hard balance, because... Like, Colossi with range, they outrange Spine Crawlers, but Spine Crawlers are still always going to buy a lot of time. So do I make more Spines, or do I try to get eco faster, which I think is probably going to be a little bit greedy. It is really funny, by the way. This might be like my highest level Zerg game ever, where I'm... You know, I'm actually macroing and making spines and having good tactic and stuff like that, but I'm still not making creep. So that's one thing that we'll just never learn, I guess, guys. But these mutas here are trading fantastically. You know, killing a couple sentries here is always quite nice. I don't want to commit too hard in range of batteries and stuff. Like with mutas, you always want to keep, you know, the magical count, or like the snowball count, I could say. Now that hatch was misplaced, so I'm going to fix it real quick. And right now, I'm not planning to switch for my strategy, and I'm mostly not planning to switch because my opponent hasn't shown Phoenixes. Like, if he wants to go for Mass Blink Stalkers, I really think I can just outplay that with Mass Mutas. If he actually did have Mass Phoenixes, now here I see he did have more Stalkers than I thought. Gonna get some decent trades here, and then I'm just gonna go up into the main base and start sacrificing killing some probes. Like, remember, I have a lot of Glass Cannon and Hydras plus Spines in my main base. So if I lose a lot of units and he base trades me, it is very likely I'll still be able to defend. So here, I'm really just trading a bunch of Mutalisks for probes, and I think that's worth it. I mean, I'm taking my 4th and 5th base already. At some point, I'm gonna have to start making some better units. That is definitely a thing. I'm already making some Zerglings because I realized I didn't actually have units besides, you know, a couple Zerglings or a couple Hydras rather, and a million Mutas. So now we're going to make some Zerglings, which could help me in killing Stalkers, for example, surrounding the Stalkers. I still have 20 Mutalisks, which is a really healthy count. Once you get up to 6 gas, you can afford an absolute crap ton of those. Now, I wonder what the building I made in the main is actually. Like, is that not a Hydra then? It could be a Bailing Nest or a Roach Warren or an Evolution Chamber. I think it's an Evolution Chamber. I'm not 100% sure. Now, here you can see me trade against the Stalkers again. I have more Mutas than Stalkers, so these trades are going to be pretty good. Notice how I'm targeting them one by one. Yo, the Mutas are actually better than I thought, you know. Like, these are trading pretty insane against these Stalkers right now. Now, there's also a cannon here and a battery overcharge, so I'm going to back off. But for someone who is richer than my opponent, notice how he doesn't have any gases on the 3rd, by the way. I have to be honest, I didn't notice this when I was playing the game itself. I see it now, so that's a really big sign that either he wants to attack me or he's taking the 4th base in, yeah, kind of like the middle location, you could say, slightly below his natural. But I didn't notice that during the game. But yeah, he doesn't even have those gases. I'm instantly gonna go up to taking more gases. My opponent still felt very passive to me, so I am gonna move out and put my Spines at the 4th base. I mean, it's always gonna be really nice for me to be able to saturate that, of course. Now, what tech buildings do I have now? I don't want to make Hydras because he has Colossus. I think it sounds weird, but I think maybe that we want Roaches here. We're going to go for Bailings are always good, by the way. That's one thing that I always said about Zerg. Bailing is like the best Zerg unit, but I always refuse to make them. But this game, this is a tournament. You can really see that I'm activated. I'm going for the units that I would normally never make. Now here, I'm just going to go for the cannons, but he does have Phoenixes. I was afraid for those for a while. I hope he doesn't have Phoenix range here, because that could be pretty devastating for me. So I got my some more Queens finishing. I have a saturated 4th base at this point. I mean, 8 gas is going to be a lot of Mutas, but I don't really know if I want Mutas at this point. Now I'm moving out with my army. I'm mostly doing this because it's a bad army. Like Ling Hydra, I mean, it's really good against some things, but realistically, against someone with Stalker Colossus, you're not gonna want Ling Hydra, right? Now he has Phoenixes. Let's see. I still haven't seen if he has range or not, so I want to be very careful. I do want to get trades. Okay, so he doesn't have range on the Phoenixes, so that's really nice. I mean, it could still be on the way, of course, but for now, he doesn't have it. Now, this is a bit of a risky move by me. Because now my Mutas might be stuck. But in the end, I think it's okay. So yeah, there's a fleet beacon, which means he's either going to go for range. I mean, he's chrono boosting it, so it's definitely range. But he can also use it to go for carriers later on. So we need to keep that in mind. So this attack looks very good, but there are a couple laser giraffes there, plus a battery overcharge. So I need to back off. And now, yeah, we are in kind of an annoying predicament here. I'm getting roach speed and bailing speed at the same time, so I could potentially make a better army. Like, at this point, I can probably stop making my high-tech units like Mutas. Look how hard it is for me to micro those against range. Like, if Phoenixes don't have the range upgrade, they can own mutas with perfect micro, but it's tough. But with the range upgrade, this is freaking hard. Now, we did kill one of them at least, which is really nice. And I decided to go for this. I made a couple Corruptors. Mutalisk Corruptor is one of my all-time favorite Zerg compositions. The Corruptors tank the Phoenixes, and the Mutalisk get all of the damage done. It sounds pretty simple. The micro is a little bit harder than that, but it's going to be very cool. And here we go, guys. It is time to morph a bunch of Balings. Oh my god, I feel like, you know, if you ignore the fact that I haven't put like a single creep tuner down this game, I almost look like a normal Zerg, actually transitioning from making stupid mass mutas. I just realized I did have a Baling nest already, by the way. Looks like I did make 2 Baling nests. Of course, I made it at the start. I was wondering, like, when did I make that? But I made it at the start because I went, that's actually funny. That's kind of like the equivalent of a Terran going for a Hellbat attack and then making a second army to get their 2-2, you know? Now, he doesn't want to attack in here because of all the spine crawlers. I do really need Baling speed to finish before I attack. Now, good thing for me is that I also have a lot of spines up there. And now I have these Corruptors, which are going to be pretty good against the Phoenixes. He's pushing in. This looks like a pretty good fight for me. The Prism is going to die instantly, which is massive. And now these Balings are coming in. The Balings are very well spread, which I don't even think I did intentionally. But all right, the Balings are very well spread. The Stalkers are not going to live for long. These Corruptors are now going to go uncontested. I am going to lose all of the Hydras most likely because Hydras melt to the Colossi, but that is going to be his entire army. It was a 3-base lid, and this was my best Zerg series of all time. Without exaggeration, we 2-0'd a 5.7k Protoss. Our next opponent is Nicorach, a 6k Terran. Let's do it. And in game number 1, I'm going to be playing Terran. Now, I had no idea whether P-Power and Nicorach were friends or something, so I thought it could be a really nice mind game just in case he messages him like, hey, man, this guy's just going to play Zerg and do some weird Zerg builds, you know? So I don't want Nicorach to be able to prepare, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to play Terran here. We're going to see how it goes, and then we're going to decide on, you know, the race or the strategy for the next game. Now, one thing that I didn't really think about, I'm going to mention it again later on. You might be able to see it. That was some very poor SCV micro by me if you were paying attention there. But I have no idea how the new Cyclone impacts TVT at all. And, I mean, realistically, in macro games, the Cyclone is an absolute non-issue. Like, it's even worse than it was before because you can imagine what siege tanks are going to do to a weaker Cyclone, right? Like, those things are just going to get absolutely blasted off the map and that's it. But in the early game, it is very common to go for like Reaper Hellion attacks, and then let's say you have, you know, I don't know, 1 or 2 fast Cyclones to defend and they're cheaper. Maybe you can be a bit greedier, or maybe the new Cyclones are just too weak to defend against Mass Reapers. Also very possible. In any case, I'm just going to go for a normal double gas here. I was planning to play this game normally, really just for the mind games, and then later on, you know, the memes will unleash. It doesn't matter if I'm going to play Protoss or Zerg or Planetary Rush or whatever, the memes are going to unleash in the next game. But here I wanted to play relatively standard, just to kind of give my opponent, you know, a little bit of doubt. Before I also had some chat with Nicorach. I was talking to him. Seems like a very nice guy. And it's really funny because he said, okay, according to the vetoes, I know you're definitely not going to play Terran. That's what he told me. Because I apparently vetoed all the Terran maps. But if you guys know me, it's not like I've been practicing. I've just been doing memes. So I legitimately didn't know that I was vetoing the Terran maps, right? Like, I was just vetoing the maps. I think I mentioned it in the video that I uploaded yesterday. I was literally just vetoing the maps that looked big. So I would be able to cheese a little better. So I thought that was kind of funny. Now, one thing that's really awesome, just to mention, is that in these ESL tournament, you are actually allowed to switch races in between the games. And that might sound weird to you guys. Like, wait, are you not normally allowed to do that? And no, actually, you're not. In a lot of tournaments, you can only play one, you know, race in a whole series. And for some, even in the whole tournament. So it is really not that, you know, typical that you can just freely switch your race, which I think is a little weird. I kind of get it because let's say someone has 2 equally strong races, then they can do the vetoes, and depending on the vetoes, let's say they get really good maps for Protoss, but bad for Zerg, they can just play Protoss. Or let's say you pick a map that you think is really good against Zerg because you think he's going to play Zerg, but then he picks Protoss, stuff like that. So I can kind of understand why it was, well, not really frowned upon, but why it was not allowed in the rules for a while. At the same time, though, if you can play multiple races at that high level, then I feel like that should just be rewarded, right? So, especially at this point in StarCraft where entertainment and, you know, making StarCraft look more fun rather than, you know, playing like the same meta over and over, I think it's really, really cool that you're just able to pick races freely between the games. If you guys don't watch too much pro play, there's one player in particular that has made use of it, and it's Raynor, world champion Raynor. He also has a really good Protoss, and in particular, his Protoss against Zerg is very good. And what happens in his case is that he tends to be the kind of guy who's super motivated for the big tournaments, but not as much for the smaller ones when he's taking a break. So what he can do is just have a really good time, you know, pick protos when he feels like it. So in general, yeah, basically all this was about just saying how good the rule was that you're about to choose races. Now here, notice what I did. I built one cycle. Let me get back to the game. I know I've just been rambling a lot. So my build here is a completely standard Terran build. This is the build I would always do. But then in the middle of the build, I realized, wait, the new cyclone might be a factor here. So I decided instead of making the third Hellion, I went for a Cyclone, and now I'm going to make another one. And because I didn't have that big punch at the front, I'm going to send the Reapers in the main. So here we can see how the Cyclone is going to fare. You can tell it does take a lot of damage, and now we're going to end up in kind of a base trade. But because I made a couple Cyclones, which my opponent might not expect, we could defend this a little bit better than him, unless he also made Cyclones, of course. So there we go. I have 2 Cyclones out. I also have a couple Marines. I'm going to use these Reapers to kill the Marines. It didn't look like he built a Cyclone. In the end, I really cannot tell who's winning this right now. He has a couple units left in my base who are going to run away. My SCV line looks absolutely empty. I killed his natural mineral line and a couple Marines, but I haven't really killed anything in the main. Now here, this is another thing that I was really confused about. This is another new patch thing. He dropped an auto turret, by the way, which is really good for me. That's a waste of energy. Here, I was completely convinced that we were playing against cloaked banshees, until I realized that you have to upgrade Interference Matrix now. Like, I didn't think about it at all, but Interference Matrix, the Raven ability, is now an upgrade. So that is obviously what he was researching. But in my head, look at the positioning of my Cyclone. I put it in my main mineral line. I'm going to put a Raven there as well. And it's because I just completely didn't realize until now that you have to upgrade the Interference Matrix. Now, who was ahead here? I am not 100% sure. I think I did a little more damage, and I say that because I feel like we killed a similar amount of SCVs, but I also killed, I want to say, like 6 Marines or so, and he wasted an auto turret. Now here I got a little bit lucky. Those Reapers were on the low ground, so, or they jumped to the low ground, so I could kind of take over the high ground, and now I'm going to be able to get a decent trade at least. Probably going to be 2 for 2. There we go. I'm going to kill 2 Reapers. I should have just lost all of these, by the way, so the fact that I get a couple is really nice. I'm going to get a little bit of a scout off, not too much, of course. Gonna make some extra Ravens. Now the Reaper is dead, and I feel like we're in a pretty decent spot here. Now this is the classic TVT. One thing that's always really funny about TVT is that the early game is just absolute chaos, right? Like, it's super fun, it's super chaotic. Can also be very frustrating, of course, if you're on the wrong side of the chaos. But then once you get in the late game, it's very often very turtly and slow. Now you guys know me, I'm not really gonna let it get to that point. I'm probably gonna do some really cool pushes here, maybe some drops. It is still surprising to me how little damage a Cyclone does. Whenever I see the Cyclone fight against the Reaper, I just imagine that it's about to, you know, kill it in 3 shots or something. But then I think it takes like 5. I think it's 5 or 6. I think it's 5. So here we go. I'm gonna go across with the Ravens. Why I'm doing this is pretty much to continue the chaos. So I'm gonna drop mass auto turrets in his base. If he defends, then yeah, I'm going to have to be a little careful for the counterattack. If he's going to attack me right away, then it's going to be a slightly strange scenario, because I'm going to have to kill all of his stuff with 4 Ravens and then somehow defend his entire army. I definitely should have had some Marine spotter. This is one of those things where you can tell that I'm a little rusty. Like, I haven't had any vision on the map, and in TVT, you always need perfect vision. You should always send Marines out, and yeah, as it looks like, I'm gonna get punished for that right away, so that's unfortunate. I did manage to unsiege that tank in time, by the way, so the tank that he matrixed is gonna escape, which is super, super big. I have a couple of Vikings as well, which is going to be really annoying for his Ravens to deal with, and I'm just going to be dropping mass auto turrets in his base. I also do have a 3rd base on location, by the way. He's not attacking it yet, so this is really good, and now I'm going to unload all of my auto turrets. He's going to try to repair the Vikings, but I think it's a couple too many auto turrets there. I'm not 100% sure, but it looks like it's a few too many auto turrets. Yeah, so the Vikings fell. I didn't kill all of his SCVs, I think, but it doesn't seem like there's a 3rd command center, so maybe I have the advantage in that regard. He's unsieging and he's going to run away. I didn't lose any of my units in that whole encounter, it looks like, by the way. And now I'm going to attack this together with my SCVs. I think I killed a Raven with high energy. These SCVs are going to help me tank so I can deal with this army. I still have Ravens alive, and I don't think he does, maybe just 1. And that is GG. It was a very chaotic TVT. You can look in the supplies that I definitely had won this game. 2 Vikings and 1 tank left. That is game number 1. Let's go for game number 2. In game number 2, we're gonna be playing Protoss. There we go. And here, yeah, this is why I'm typing here. It's because I was explaining to him based on the chat in the lobby. He was surprised that I was gonna be playing Protoss, and that I explained it to him. And that's pretty much the explanation, guys. I really wanted to play Zerg here, but I wasn't quite sure how the new proxy hatch works against the new Cyclone. And I mean, I totally agree with him. This is actually pretty funny because this conversation is pretty much what's going on in my head right now as well. The new Cyclone, it kind of sucks, but I think if you go for a proxy hatch and they can make the Cyclone without even needing a tech lab or something, then they could probably defend it a little bit easier. Though I'm not 100% sure, but that's what I'm thinking. So I was a little bit scared to do it. Maybe if I lose this one, the score is going to be 1-1 as best of 3. I could play Zerg in the last game as well. But for now, I wanted some time to think about it. Now, I have to admit something here, guys. I haven't really practiced Protoss in ages. Like, I talked about how I've been playing, like, a little more Zerg, but I haven't practiced Protoss in ages. So this was just a bit of a YOLO, just a bit of a wild choice to play Protoss, because I legitimately don't even really have a build, but I had something in mind. So that's what I'm going to go for. Notice how I'm going to go for double gas, but at the same time, I haven't started a proxy pylon yet, so that's a little bit strange. Well, let's see. Here we go. I'm going to proxy a pylon with this probe. So first I'm going to make a cyber core, and then I'm kind of going to do one of those fake proxies that I've talked about before. Now, this build is very messy, I guess is the best way I can put it. Like, this is definitely not a super well planned out build, so we're just gonna have to see how it goes. And that's what was happening at the time in my head too. You know, you can tell he's blocking my natural, but I don't really want the natural yet, but I want it at some point, so I'm still gonna have to send a probe to deny it. But in any case, I'm pretty sure he's gonna be quite confused, and he's gonna be quite scared. I think I mentioned that in the last series as well, is that this is, you know, potentially a once in a half-year qualifier, so these people are taking this very serious, of course. So there we go. I'm gonna go for a proxy Stargate. What my plan is here, I was a little scared to play Phoenixes. I do like playing with Phoenixes, but I was a little bit scared to do it, mostly for the reason that the new Cyclone, if there's one thing it's good against, it's... At least that's what I've read in Twitch chat. I haven't really seen it myself, to be honest, so I probably shouldn't trust that, but what I've read in Twitch chat is that the new Cyclone is pretty good at stopping Stargate more than anything else. So what I was thinking is, if I go for Phoenixes and there's like a little Cyclone out early, maybe people are still experimenting with those builds, it's more likely that they're going to try those things. Yeah, I'm not quite sure if I want to be playing Phoenixes here, but going for Oracle sounds pretty good. Now, here I definitely made a little bit of a mistake. I know this in hindsight, but I also could already tell at the time. I sent out my second Adept, and I didn't have a pylon in my main base in time to make a battery, so I'm going to have to do some really extreme micro, but even then, I will be losing a lot of workers. Now, to be fair, the two Adepts on the other side of the map are going to be able to do a decent amount of damage. Like, you shouldn't be able to mine from his natural mineral line for a pretty long time, until he either gets like 5 Marines or like a Cyclone or a Hellion up. So I think I lost like 3 probes there, but he's also not going to be able to mine from his natural for a while. Now, one problem here is that I would love to use the new Oracle, or the first Oracle already. All these new units, guys, are getting confused here. I would love to use the first Oracle instantly, but I want to hide it until it's 3. If you have 3 Oracles, you first of all, I think you 2-shot a new Cyclone, but you also 1-shot Marines and SCV, so that's when the potential really starts. So that was my whole plan here. Saving up for 3 Oracles, and then after that, I'll figure out, you know, what the hell the follow-up is going to be. So here, my probe is just getting some scouting done, and now I'm going to see the Cyclone. Exactly. So he has 1 Cyclone out. I'm not going to finish that Shade because I would lose them too fast. Instead, I'm just going to be trying to, you know, get my 3rd Oracle up and then transition at home to whatever I want to build. Probably can kill another Marine or 2, perhaps, if I micro well. I did misclick there, so I didn't kill that Marine, which is not very important, but it is important for my ego. So that's a small mental blow to me. Really wish I would have killed that Marine. Now, realistically, it doesn't matter. But you can get 3 Oracles super freaking fast, by the way. Like, it's 425, and I already have 3 Oracles. It could have perhaps been better if I built my Stargate next to his base, but judging by his Reaper timing, I am pretty sure that he scouted his side of the map for proxies, because his Reaper arrived at the proxy scout timing, right? So I don't think... This was an accident, but it's a pretty good distraction, to be honest, because now I'm going to be able to kill the Cyclone for free. Okay, that was pretty funny, not going to lie. That wasn't an intentional distraction at all. That just kind of happened. And here we go. These Oracles are already doing a crazy amount of damage. We're going to kill... I think we probably killed about 8 SCVs so far. This mineral, like, these Oracles are so fast. Going to get another 3 there. Yeah, I think we've killed more than... 10 workers already, which is pretty sick. Now, there we go. He's going to go for the interference matrix upgrade. Not cloak banshees again. Another worker going down. I have to say, guys, it's one of the most satisfying things about Protoss is microing oracles. It's just like... It's just so clean. Like, I don't know. I feel like if you're not that good at it, it's going to be very messy. But if you do have the skills to set yourself apart in that, it looks very, very, very satisfying to just keep your oracle stacks and just like tap, 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 1 SCV, 1 SCV, 1 SCV. Like, it's absolutely beautiful. Now, I'm going for a 4-gate blink follow-up here. This is not necessarily because it's the best follow-up to this at all. But I just wanted to make sure I had units to outplay with. Because like I mentioned before, I haven't really been practicing Protoss. Or I haven't really... I literally haven't practiced Protoss at all recently. Besides the Protoss Cheese episodes, I guess. So I'm not really... you know, in the meta for what exactly I'm supposed to do for macro games, whether we're playing Disruptors or Immortals or Colossus or whatever. So I just wanted to make sure I had a lot of units to micro with and cause chaos more than anything else. Like, I wanted to try avoid the regular patterns of PvT. That was pretty much the goal. And maybe with these Oracles giving me vision, I could also just, you know, do stuff like blink into the main. And here we go. We're going to be able to kill even more SCVs. Oh my god, this is so freaking cool, guys. Tell me that's not incredibly satisfying. Now, he does have a Viking there, so I'm going to have to get out. We do save all the oracles, which is great. Gonna warp that, 4 more stalkers, and we're gonna have 10 stalkers with blink. Now, I do not have a third base yet, so realistically, I still need to do some damage. That's kind of how PvT works. If you go... like, a third base could even go down at, like, 3 minutes, I'm pretty sure. Now I'm going to take it at, like, 6... what is that? 6:47. So you can imagine that I definitely need to deal a little more damage. And it's mostly because of the timing my opponent's going to have. If I don't deal damage against Terran, he's going to hit me really hard with his first stim timing. So that is pretty much what I am thinking of right now. So here we go. This is the move I was talking about. I'm going to blink on top. I'm going to use the oracles. It's really painful for me that the auto turret is going to be able to kill one of those oracles, and he had a tank siege in the back. And this was, yeah, I mean, the second big mistake of the game, I think. First of all, letting his Reaper kill 3 workers was pretty tough, but also here, it really looked like a good trade, but the tank right next to the command center was barely in range, which was incredibly painful. And then the Raven also dropping the auto turret, making sure to finish off the oracles before I could kill all of his marines. Else he wouldn't even have any anti-air, by the way. Think about it like that, guys. If those auto turrets did not manage to kill the oracles, my oracles would have killed everything there. So that was pretty massive, especially because I could have just killed the Viking with my stalkers, of course. Now, this is more a scout than anything else. I'm just checking how many units he has. Maybe we can kill a couple more workers. There we go. This orc was 13 kills, by the way. You guys see that? The orc was 13 kills by himself. That's pretty crazy. Okay, now, this is one thing that I do know you always have to do. You always have to bait stims with your stalkers and try to get free units. That's just an absolute must. One thing that's pretty painful for me, by the way, is that I don't have rapid fire installed right now on... what is it called? The unit warpins. Like, normally that's what Protoss players do. They put like Z, S and stuff on rapid fire. So you don't have to pretty much like Z click for every unit. You can just like and you warp in, you know, 8 zealots or something. That's pretty much how they do it. Now here he's pushing in. I was kind of surprised, but okay, now he's backing off. I was surprised because there's 2 Archons. Archons are incredibly hard to counter if you don't have Widow Mines. Like, you need Widow Mines or you need Ghost. I mean, I guess Liberators could do a decent job as well, but if you're making Liberators now, that is just... yeah, not very smart, I guess you could say. So I think he only had a couple tanks. He didn't have Widow Mines, and that's why he's gonna back off there. Now, I don't really have a follow-up here yet. Like, keep in mind, like, my third base is looking solid. He doesn't have his third base landed yet. Here, I'm making a stasis, but his army was right there. I was trying to put it behind his army. Sadly, didn't work out. And now, like I said, that's what I was gonna say. Now I'm gonna go for the double forge. Like, my third base looks good, but I don't have, like, a robotics bay. I don't have upgrades. I mean, I'm making Storm now, which is really good. I have to say, after being proud of my Zerg play, I'm also really proud of my Protoss play here, because typically with my off races, I feel like I just kind of do silly compositions because I don't know if I'm like scared or something like that, but I'm kind of scared of going to like really tough compositions, like trying to get every form of splash, managing disruptors and storm and force field and stuff like that. So I tend to go for more simple army compositions, like, you know, literally Zealot Stalker or something. But I feel like in this game, similar to my Zerg gameplay, I'm actually trying to make the proper units. Like in the Zerg games, I made Baelix. Now I'm gonna go for Storm. I think I should probably go for some Robos. Wait, do I have a Robo already? I don't think so, right? Or did I build it? I really need a robo here. Robos are also... Okay, there we go. There's the robo. Now, I do have a couple too many probes on my natural, so the saturation isn't perfect. Now, this is... By the way, guys, try this at your own risk, but I really like this move I was doing here. I don't know if this move makes any sense, but what I did... This was my thought process, okay? I don't have observers on the map. I don't have pylons on the map, okay? My map vision is pretty poor. The zealots are fast, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna run around with a squad of zealots just to try and get some map control and scout what he's up to, maybe like scare him a little bit and stuff. Now, it's obviously pretty risky. Like here, I microed a little bit too late, so I think I lost 3 zealots or something. But I thought it was a really cool move. I feel like if someone would try that, that's like legitimately good at playing Protoss, unlike me, it could actually be pretty fun to just, instead of, you know, having to spend robo time making observers, or having to spend a little bit of your economy making pylons everywhere, you can just run around a group of zealots. Though I definitely understand the risk here. Like, that's definitely a very scary thing to do. Now, I am aware of the limitations of my Protoss play. One of my limitations is that I'm simply not good at making detection. Oh, there's actually walked a little bit too close to the widow mines there. Somehow that one hit me from downtown. But I'm not that good at dealing with all the harassment because I don't have vision. I don't usually have detection. And that's why I decided to make a blind cannon in every mineral line. Like, that's the thing, you know. You can work on your weaknesses, but in some cases, I feel like you should just, especially if you're playing in a tournament like this, you should just kind of avoid it and be smart about it. Now here, this is exactly what I was talking about. I don't know how he realized the zealots on the left side were there, but I just lost like 50 supply in zealots, guys. Yeah, I mean, I feel like this game was going on pretty evenly, but now I must be down by an absolute insane amount of supply because I lost, I want to say 10 to 12 zealots on the left side. The top side was a slightly better trade, but you could tell that I was behind in upgrades, which I didn't check for. And those are just things that, oh, look at this. There we go. Very nice storm. This is one of those plays that I really like to make, where I just have like random Templars everywhere. If I explore playing PvT a little more seriously, that's definitely a play that I would make. Just try and split Templars everywhere. Here, he was trying to multitask me because he saw my Stalkers, but he didn't realize that I still had my Stalkers in the top there. So I'm going to kill the medevac, but he did outposition me a little bit. But now he is kind of stuck here, guys. So I'm going to drop the Templars. Really good EMPs by him, but we do get a fat storm. And I still have a decent sized army behind us. He doesn't have EMPs left, and you can't kill Archons without EMPs, guys. Like, these things... Like, literally, if you have EMP, Archon is one of the worst units you can make. If there's no EMP, they are just, like, simply unbeatable, pretty much. Like, they're incredibly strong. So we killed this entire army, but we lost our base for it, and that's going to be very, very tough. Especially because we're probably behind in upgrades. Like, I haven't been doing a good job of making upgrades here. I realized he was probably... This is funny. This is a move that I countered because I am a Terran player myself. I realized what a real Terran would do, and it's to send those, like, random one Viking or one medevac that he had around to try and drop in my base. Like, I realized he was gonna do that here. That Widow Mines is gonna hurt a little bit, and yeah, in general right now, I thought this game was gonna be over, like, right now. I lost another more. I feel like in the last 2 minutes, you guys are probably losing track of how many things went wrong for me there, because, I mean, I counterattacked, right? He had way more army than I realized, so I think I lost 2 Templars and 2 Archons. I lost a couple Stalkers because I warped them in next to 2 Widow Mines, and I lost an Immortal because I rallied in an accident. That's all that happened in like just 1 minute. So yeah, you could say we're pretty dead right now. Like, knowing me, I'm still going to try my absolute best here. I'm moving my Stalkers out on the map. And that is the kind of moments where you really get rewarded for having map control. Like, just getting 3 medevacs there, it wouldn't have happened if I would just be scared and sit back at home. But I'm always trying to make plays happen. And I feel like that is what the best Protoss players always do. Like, the best Protoss players in the world at the moment, Max, Pax, and Hero, they're always super active with their army. And that's why, like, you have to be really scared as a Terran flying your medevacs around and stuff, right? Because it's just very, you know, likely that they get caught. Now here there's a couple Widow Mines coming again. My army is starting to look a lot better, I have to say. Now here, good target fire by him. I really thought that he was going to shoot the Stalker there, and I would have been able to save it with a blink. Now here he catches a couple Zealots again. It is really funny. I was talking to you guys about how cool I felt doing my Zealot move. Obviously, I already knew it was going to happen, but... yeah, I think this game overall, I probably lost like 30 plus Zealots in a really bad trade because I was doing that. So maybe you really do have to be a fantastic Protoss player to make this happen instead of just a regular Protoss player. Now, he's going to try to stay this 4-up. There's actually a lot of bio to lose there to a storm, I have to say. Like, that is a decent amount. Now, he's going to try to attack me because he thinks it's my final army, but I've been doing a pretty good job of hiding my true force here. So I still have a storm drop here. Now, here you can see how good the storm drop really is. Now, that storm didn't go off on top, but look at this, guys. His entire army had to split, and I'm going to destroy his army. I feel like if there's one thing I've been doing really, really well this game, better than anything else, like literally I haven't been doing that much right, but anything I'm doing really well is taking the fights in my own base. I'm always making sure that he can't see exactly where my entire army is. I always get a couple storms off, and now I think it's time for me to just go for the all-in, but then he does do the drop in the main base, and now I'm gonna use one of my favorite Protoss tools. I always talk about it. I love to use this, guys. I'm out of position, don't worry. Just recall. Now, I did kill an empty medevac. If you guys don't know that, you can actually hear, by the way, if you kill a medevac, if it has cargo in it or not. Now, I imagine you guys are as surprised that I am that after that, well, not really start, but after that mid game, we did manage to stabilize at 150 supply, and I'm about to take my 5th base. Now, I still haven't made any observers at all for vision. I definitely... You know what I love about this the most is that I'm doing so much wrong, and I just know how much there is to fix as well, and that's pretty great. Now, those storms missed, good dodges by him, but I do have an absolutely massive amount of Immortals here. Immortals don't have the best name against Terran, but against pure Marauders, guys, like, these Immortals are absolute demons right now. They killed so many units, and now, I mean, my economy might not be that great, but I have 141 supply, and it is mostly Immortals as well. I'm gonna kill another 4 Marauders, and I'm still managing to get my 5th base up at the same time, at least, unless I lose it to that one Marauder over there, which would be unfortunate. I don't even know what my upgrades are at this point, by the way. Like, I've completely lost track. Now, let's see. Okay, so I have, what is that, 7 Immortals. He had a bunch of Marines, which is definitely a good choice. Like, making mass Marauders against 7 Immortals, that is probably not the right choice here. So I'm going to make 1 Arc, and I'm going to send... Yeah, that 1 Marauder is still killing me. I'm going to slow warp in a Zeal to try and kill that. And now we're going to go through the choke. I feel like my opponent probably has better upgrades. He's probably better prepared for the late game. So I thought this was going to be a good idea, but he did have more units that I was hoping for, guys. Not gonna lie, the Immortals are gonna do a good job, but this, you know, this concave is just not good enough. This was actually a really good move warping in there, because he clicked his entire army on the prism, including the Marauders that walked forward, but this attack was a disaster. You can tell the supply is really high, but maybe if I went for Storm, took it a little bit easier, I could have made the comeback. But that's gonna be it for game number 2. Let's go for the decider match. And now the moment you've all been waiting for. I know you have. Me playing Zerg in the most important game you guys have seen me play in a long time. Game 3 against a very high-level Grandmaster Terran. $60,000 tournament qualification on the line. Well, not yet, because after this I would still have to win another game anyway. But still, it's a very big match, especially for my Zerg. I don't usually get to play these, and I'm going to do my classic build, guys. I'm going to go for the double extractor trick. And I'm gonna go for the proxy hatch. You guys can see I was really scared to do this because of the new cycle. Like, I wasn't sure how it would work out on the new patch. I feel like I've gotten a lot of hate for doing this build, because people say it sucks, but I love this build. It's gonna give me outplay potential. So here we go. 16 hatch on the Terran's natural, and I'm very curious to see how he's gonna respond to it, especially in a tournament setting like this, right? Like, he must be, you know, very nervous. Like I said, I've said it many times. There's so much on the line here that's gonna be pretty nerve-wracking. I also figured out a new version of this build as well. I don't know if it's better or not, but it's a new version here. I'm gonna do my good old classic one, double extractor trick to get 16 supply out of 14, and then a hatch pool. And then I'm just gonna start trying to creep up his natural, make Zerglings. Though it kind of depends on what response the opponent does. Sometimes they pull 10 SCVs and kill the hatchery as well, which I don't really mind, but at the same time, I do really like having tools to play with, you know, in the opponent's base. So even if that situation might be even better for me because they're just wasting a lot of money, I do really enjoy, like, the little dance with the queens and the lings, or like when I do like a spine crawler rush. Like, it always feels very, very fun to do. Now, I was really trying to be on my best when it comes to like spreading overlords, because normally I'm just pretty bad at it. I know my Zerg has a lot of weaknesses as well. Even though we're playing at a high level, definitely some weaknesses like spreading overlord, spreading creep and stuff. So I was trying, especially in the super important match, to just do everything better. Already trying to, you know, send those from the larva. There we go. The pool is not quite finished yet. The pool's always a little bit later with this build. This is one of the reasons why I was considering maybe going pool before the third hatchery, but I mean, this way my economy is really good, which is cool. Now, my opponent went for a reactor first. That's always a little scary, and I think it's scary just because it's the best opener against it, basically. Like, reactor first is what I would usually recommend if you're going up against Zerg cheeses. Like, it's very safe. You get a lot of Marines out very fast. Normally, you'd want to make Hellions. But against a cheese like roaches or proxiads or something, having extra Marines is always good. And this is going to be a very crucial moment in the game. So what I'm doing here is I'm making 6 Zerglings in my opponent's base plus a queen. What the point of this is these 6 Zerglings, they're not really supposed to kill anything. They're supposed to prevent my opponent from going for the creep tumor pretty much. Like, that's the entire idea. Now, here I had a cool idea. He might not realize where my links are. So I'm going to get behind the Marines. And there we go. This is an absolutely massive castle. I was slightly unlucky here that my opponent already decided to pull the SCVs. Else I really would have killed all of those Marines for free. Instead now, yeah, I mean, he pulled 5 SCVs, which is a lot of mining time. I decided to make a couple more Zerglings at this moment because it's going to be harder for him to clear. But the creep tumor is alive and we killed 4 Marines, which is a really, really good start. And this is exactly what this build is about. And back at home, I'm just chilling. Like, I already have 2 bases up. I think I already have, yeah, I already have 2 queens as well. And now I'm going for the double gas. I don't think I want to make any more links here, mostly because... Okay, there you go. Yeah, I was going to say there could be either Hellions or a Cyclone on the way, or maybe even... a 3 racks with Marines, like even more Marines or something. Like, you never know, so I didn't really want to risk making more links just to waste it. Now, I did make more links now just because his army doesn't look that big, and I decided it was worth it to get more creep out. But yeah, like I mentioned before, I have some doubts about it. I'm not sure. Now, he scans my natural and see that I have double gas with a lot of drones, and that's why he decided to attack anyway. I almost got that Cyclone locked out, but there's just too much Marine DPS there, unfortunately. Now, what you want to do with these creep tumors is spread them out as far as possible so he can't kill them with 1 scan. Like, 1 scan, I want to say, is okay. 2 scans or more already starts getting very, very expensive for the Terrans. So, and there we go. I'm going to get a couple more queens out. Now, I do have to say at this point, I didn't do it in this game, but I really wish that I... cut gas here. I feel like I have too much gas and I would rather have minerals. This is a thing that I frequently do wrong with Zerg. And okay, look, if that creep were finished, he was gonna need 3 scans, by the way. That would have been crazy, but now it was only 2. That's a little unfortunate for me. So now I see a tech lab researching something, and this time it's probably actually Cloak for once. Now here he's still... I was kind of thinking he might have left to my base already. That's why I went out there with those units, but it looks like he was still at home. He just went to clear the Overlord, of course, makes sense. But yeah, now... he is probably going for Cloak Banshees, and we're going to have to counter that, which is going to be a little harder. I wouldn't be surprised if he cancels it, to be honest. I feel like it's a very typical Terran move to just, you know, cancel the thing once your opponent scouts it and then just move on to do something else. Now, I'm going to tell you... Okay, you guys are going to see it right here. This is the reason why I wanted to play double gas fast. Because I wanted to get link speed and double upgrade links. This is not necessarily the best style of Zerg to play, I think. I think it's usually safer to go for a faster lair and either get roach or bailing speed fast. But I want Zerglings to outplay with, so I want to get extra fast upgrades on them. And I also want to be able to get the lair for like an Overseer, for example. That's what I was thinking. Now, I just realized the Spore in my natural didn't even build, which is pretty funny because... I mean, I don't see any Banshees yet, which makes me think he canceled it, but that Spore actually didn't build, so if there would have been a Banshee, I would have been in a lot of trouble. Now here, I only saw 2 Marines and a tank, so I'm just going to go for it. Here we go. I'm going to get 2 Marines and a tank pretty fast. Now, I am probably going to lose those Zerglings, so I might as well try to get some SCVs for it. There we go. I think it's really hard to tell how many SCVs I'm killing. I think I got 5. Maybe we can get that one too. No, I think we got 5 or 6. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it was 5 or 6. Now here, I'm going to go for a lair. I think I really should be starting a bailing nest or a roach warren. But this is, well, I should say, maybe not me, but realistically, if you're playing Zerg, you should. Because I just like, you know, making a million Zerglings and trying to get run-bys off and outplays. Like, every time, I feel like, okay, he's probably going to leave his base now so I can run in with the links, but then he's still at home. And that makes me a little scared, because if he's going to gear up for a big attack and I really only have Zerglings, even if I have 1-1, that's definitely going to be a little bit scary. Now, here I'm making a little bit of a mistake with my army move, and I should have... Yeah, exactly. I realized it right away. I should always keep my links on the other side of the map, so I can actually you know, run by when the opportunity is present. Like, Zerglings are very fast. You can usually do that reactively, but you would rather just be in position, I guess, right? So here we can see he was gonna go for a double drop. He probably, yeah, he still has some units there. Okay, that would have been really nice if he didn't. Let's see, the upgrades are still not finished. Yeah, this is a little problematic for me because I really thought the upgrades were gonna finish a bit faster, but now I'm kind of stuck with too little tech. I'm gonna go for a Spire. I kind of like this choice right now, but Banelings would have been a little safer. But yeah, my upgrades didn't quite finish in time, and that's very, very scary. I fully saturated 3 bases. I'm sending all of my Zerglings across the map, and now, okay, this is going to be a very exciting moment here. He has 2 double drops into my base. My 1-1 is going to finish, so I think I'm going to get a really good trade in his base with these Zerglings. I'm going to be able to deal with that with the queens. He does have more units than I thought at home, which is going to be pretty freaking scary. My Zerglings are going to die, and this might have been the biggest blunder I've made in a while, and I didn't realize why until I clicked on those Marines. I'm not quite sure if you guys saw it. I had 1-1, and I thought there was absolutely no way with all the Terra knowledge I have. Yeah, there I write, oops. I thought there was no way with all the Terra knowledge I have is that he would have gone for a double engineering bay, but he had 1-1-2. And this is, I know it's a bit anticlimactic, I'm sorry, but this was a massive blunder. If you look at the upgrades are even. I was in a really good position in the game, but the upgrades were even, and it's because normally you go for a single eBay or he wouldn't have upgrades yet, but here my links at his base fought against Marines that have 1-1. It's a really big difference. And in his Marines in my base had 1-1, which makes him trade really well against the Queens. And just like that, we are eliminated from the biggest qualifier I've played in a while. It was a little bit of a tough end, but still, I'm very proud of my Zerg play. I looked like I could totally compete at, you know, mid-Grandmaster level with both Zerg or both against Protoss and Terran. Probably not in ZVZ, to be honest. But that's going to be it. Hope you guys had a fantastic time. If you did, make sure to give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, comment what you want to see next. And I'll see you all for the next video. Adios.